What's up, guys? My name's Cody, and this is another UFC betting breakdown. This time for UFC 270. You got Francis Ngannou taking on Gane for the heavyweight championship. Brandon Moreno taking on Figueiredo for the 125 championship. That's the biggest weight division and the smallest weight division on the same card. That's pretty badass. I know they didn't mean to do that. It just happened to play out like that, but that's kind of tight. You also got some bangers on this card, man. A bunch of them. I'm not even going to go down the list because there's like 6 other fights that I'm super excited for, and some other ones that should be fun too. Last week we killed it. We got Brown by decision plus 120 that cash. Kelleher by decision plus 200 that cash. McKee by decision plus 160 that cashed. Chukagian by decision parlayed with Cater versus Giga, completes one round, and then Chukagian by decision parlayed with Kelleher and Giga, which obviously we know Giga lost, so that was my one bet that did not cash. So great week still. Obviously Giga being the only loss, but great week. Let's keep it up. Before we get into it, make sure you leave a like on the video, leave a subscribe, leave a comment, let me know who you got, what bets you disagree with, agree with, whatever. I love going back and forth with you guys. My Twitter's going to be in the caption. You can hit me up on there too. I love going back and forth, whether it's on the comments or the Twitter. I can talk MMA all day. My Twitch is going to be in there too. I'm live every day. I'm usually live for the fights if I'm not watching them with my team. I stream every day though, UFC 4 Fight Night. I'm also doing events, Fight Night, UFC fight cards and tournaments every Sunday. I'm uploading them on here too, but they're live on Twitch. So check all that out. Make sure you tap that bell, turn your post notifications on here so you don't miss any of that. But with all that out of the way, man, let's get into these fights. First fight of the night, we got Jasmine Jasduavicius. Something like that, I've said it 3 different ways this whole week, and I'm just going to go with that. I'm going to call her Jasmine, like Michael Bisping, versus Kay Hansen. And you got Kay Hansen going up a division for this one. That's something to be noted. It's at 125. And in this fight, like I said, Jasmine's going to be the bigger girl. She's going to have a height and reach advantage. She's got a 68 reach, 5-inch reach advantage, and a 5-inch height advantage, which, in these women's MMA fights can be very, in any fight, if you know how to use your range, it can be an advantage. It's not an advantage unless you know how to use it. It can be a disadvantage. But, Kay Hansen, the height could work for her. The height and reach disadvantage could work for Hansen if she really goes after those takedowns because, lower center of gravity. She's definitely the better jiu-jitsu fighter. But I have to say, her wrestling's not great. So, it's hard to just be super confident that she's going to go out there and immediately get a takedown. And I do think on the feet it's pretty close. I would say Kay Hansen has a bit of a striking advantage, but Jasmine's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage and a 5-inch height advantage. And that could play against Kay, considering she doesn't have a ton of power in her hands. She doesn't have a ton of power just in general in strikes, and she's not a huge finisher. So I do think she needs to get Jasmine to the ground. And, she's definitely fought the tougher girls. Jasmine hasn't fought anybody you would know. Kay Hansen, tough loss against Corey McKenna. She beat Janu Frey, decent win. She had a tough loss against Erin Blanchfield. She's fought the better girls. She's still young. But at 22, 10 years younger, she has more fights than Jasmine. So that's something to be noted. Even though she's 22, she actually has more experience than Jasmine. So you can't really, knock her for the experience there like you can in most of her fights. And I do definitely think that if she gets into the match, there's going to be a decent advantage there. So I'm going to go with Kay Hansen, but minus 255 is a little bit of a stretch for me. It's still lower level in women's MMA. It's still a 22-year-old, and she still is very inexperienced in herself. So I still have to be a little cautious there, but I am going to go Kay Hansen. I'm going to go Kay Hansen to get her down and get the submission. But if she doesn't get her down, it could get a little sketchy there. Bigger girl, longer girl. The volume's going to be close. The striking's going to be close enough. So give me Kay Hansen by sub, but minus 255 is a little steep. Next up, we got Mafivola taking on Gennaro Valdez. And Frivola, a lot of you probably know, obviously coming off 2 tough losses. But, Terrence McKenna knocked him out in 7 seconds. Obviously, that's not a good look. But you got to, understand that is McKinney's path to victory. He has a lot of wins in the first round by knockout. He has several wins in the first minute. So, you can't, knock Favola. You can knock him, but you can't, write him off because of that, because that is how Terrence wins. But still not a good look. Still got to be a little bit worried about how he's going to come back. And, Arman, very tough guy, very high-level guy. That loss, not going to give him any shit for. He did beat Luis Pena and Jalen Turner. He's got that decent wrestleboxing style where he, has some decent power in his hands. It's not like a huge finisher, but decent power to just back you up and then get his wrestling going. But, Valdez has some wrestling on his own. And the thing is, Valdez going to be a little bit more, at least at this point, you got to lean on his durability a little bit more because, you've seen Favola knocked out a couple times, too. You've seen Polo Reyes knocked him out bad in a minute. He's been knocked out in the first round twice bad. And, he has a better experience for sure. Valdez hasn't really fought anybody you would know. But, he's looked good so far, 10-0. He gets on top of you. He's got a good amount of submissions and ground and pound victories. If he gets on top of Favola, it could be dangerous there too. And on the feet, I think it's going to be pretty close. Maybe Favola's a little bit more technical. But again, Valdez, he's been very durable so far. And, you can't say the same about Favola. So, a little bit of a red flag on Favola's durability. But, I do think that Valdez gets a little tired, man. You've seen him slow down. You've seen him just kind of fall off, the pace fall off as the fight goes on. And I do think that if Favola can weather that early storm, he could start getting his takedowns going. He could get on top of Valdez. He's fought the better guys. He's got the better experience. He's only 8-3, but, fought the higher level guys. Been in the UFC for a little while now. And I do think that, barring a knockout, I think this is Favola's fight to win, man. I really, it's just that durability is the chink in his armor because he's really not a bad fighter. But I'm gonna still go with Favola, but again, minus 200 for a guy who's been, he's been, that chin. Even in the fights, some of these fights that he's won, it's like when he gets rocked or when he gets hit, it's like you can tell he don't take punches very, very well at this point of his career. But I'm still gonna go with Mafivola. I don't think I'm gonna bet it. Maybe if that line goes down, I'd throw it in one parlay. I don't know, but probably not. Again, really trying to be a little smarter this year. I still won the year before that. Every year I've tracked my betting has been profit, but I'm really trying this year to put more on less. To put on the ones that I'm confident maybe in the fight and the pick, but I don't like the line. Just lay off that one. Put that money somewhere else where I am confident. So give me Mafivola. Give me Mafivola by decision, but I'm going to lay off of it for now. Next up, we got Vanessa Demopoulos taking on Silvana Gomez-Juarez. And I've actually already broken this down once, so I'm not going to go too long on it. It's a classic striker versus grappler matchup. And the thing is, though, 6-4 versus 10-3, a little bit lower level, not because of the record, but neither one of them fought really anybody too high level yet. She did fight Vanessa did fight Corey McKenna. She fought JJ Aldrich. Lupita Godinez, that was, Sam Hughes, that's decent. And she had a decent amateur career. She lost to Caitlin Chukagian by knockout, which is kind of crazy, but it is Chukagian. And she fought Cheyenne Baez, aka Velismus. So she decent names on that. That's not bad. But Silvana, on the other hand, fought Lupita in her last fight, obviously lost. Fought Ariana Lipsky on KSW, Vanessa Mello, but kind of a lower level women's MMA fight. The thing is, man, Vanessa, definitely the better grappler. If she gets her down, definitely submission is live, but she just doesn't have great wrestling, man. The wrestling is not good. And I don't know. It's hard to be confident at favorite odds that she's going to go out there and shoot takedowns because she doesn't have a takedown yet in the UFC. She's 0-7 on takedowns. And then Silvana got the better striking, has the more power in her hands. Got just honestly the more technical striking. She's going to have an advantage on the feet for sure. And I feel like she's a little bit of the bigger girl too. Vanessa's going to have to get her to the mat, and I'm not confident in her to go out here and get her first takedown. Especially even on the regional scene when I was watching the tape, it's she's having trouble taking these girls down. These random, girls on the lower level regional scene. If she's having trouble taking those girls down, I'm not saying she's not getting better. I'm sure she is. But I just have trouble. If I'm going to, I feel like this fight's kind of a coin toss, but I slightly lean Silvana Gomez Juarez at underdog odds because I just not confident Vanessa to go out there and even shoot takedowns. And then even if she does, I'm not confident if she's going to get them. So I'm going to go Silvana by decision. And not one I'm going to play, though. It's lower level women's MMA. It's not a big enough underdog odds to really entice me, so I'm going to lay off. Next up, we got Tony Gravely taking on Simon Oliveira. And Oliveira, when you first look at it, it's like, damn, this, like, 18-3. You look at some of his fights, his highlight reels, or his highlight reel, he's a shit ton of guillotine chokes, some rear naked choke triangles. He's definitely got some good subs. And, that could be a problem because Tony Gravely, if you look, he's been submitted, a couple times for sure. I mean, at least 4? Yeah, 3, 4. Yeah, Pat Sabatini. Yeah, and I mean, so maybe, the submission is something to think about, but you gotta look at Oliveira's competition. He really hasn't fought anybody. He hasn't fought really any high-level competition yet. He's submitting a lot of lower-level guys, and, he's coming off a split decision win on the Contender Series to get his UFC debut. So, I haven't been, super impressed with him, the submissions look good. Again, the highlight reel's sick, and, when you watch him fight these lower-level guys, he looks good, but, I don't know, I just feel like, man, Tony Gravely, he had a tough break in his last fight, man. Nate Maness, he got knocked out in the second round, but if you go back and watch, man, Tony Gravely literally knocked him out in the first round, and it was kind of weird. Nate Maness's corner picked him up off the ground and put him in the corner, which is completely, against the rules. You can't pick your fighter up to, stop, because if he can't get up, it's a knockout. It's a TKO. But they literally picked him up off the canvas and put him in the corner. Then he comes out and gets one of the craziest comebacks I've seen in a long time. I was on Tony Gravely in that fight, and that was a heartbreaker because that fight should have been stopped. I'm sorry. You can't pick up your fighter off the mat and bring him in, save him from being knocked out. So that was a little crazy, but he's fought a lot of tough top guys. He's fought Brett Johns, Anthony Burchak. I'm not saying those guys are world beaters, but they're better than pretty much anybody Oliveira's fought. He fought Patchy Mix. He fought Manny Bermudez, Merab Valashvili, Ricky Banderas, Pat Sabatini. He's fought a lot of top guys, or at least, tough UFC guys. And he's gotten better, man. I mean, he's got a nice jab on him. You could have to question his durability a little bit after that knockout. I mean, not because, it was a hell of a punch, but just, you don't know how somebody's going to come back after a tough knockout loss like that. Both these guys are 30. Both these guys have a decent amount of fights. Tony Gravely, obviously, a decent amount more, 28, and he's fought the higher level guys, definitely. And I feel like he has the striking advantage. Oliveira's striking is not terrible, but he mostly wants to get you to the mat. And I don't think he's going to be able to just take Tony Gravely down, man. Tony Gravely has been taken down. I'm not saying he hasn't. But I'm not really confident Oliveira's wrestling. And especially in the UFC, this guy's wrestling didn't look great. Fighting, I'm sorry, but cans. So I just am not super confident on it, how his wrestling's going to look in the UFC. I do think Tony Gravely should be the favorite, but I don't know about minus 250. I like Tony Gravely, and I do think this is one of those fights where it's going to be like a levels fight. And as long as he doesn't get, finished, really, because I could see a sub or a knockout happening after his last fight. I don't see a knockout super likely, but if something happened to him after that last fight and his chin's cracked at this point, I'm not saying it is, then maybe. But I think a submission would be more likely, but I really don't. I think Tony Gravely at this point, 28 fights, decent amount of UFC experience. He's going to be a little too savvy for that. So I'm going to go Tony Gravely. I'm going to go knockout or decision. Knockout or decision. I really am. Gun to my head, I go decision, but I think a knockout's very live. Or a ground and pound TKO is possible. But I do think there's a striking advantage there too, and I do think he can get on top. So I'm going to go Tony Gravely by decision, but a knockout is definitely very possible. Next up, we got Jack Della Matalina taking on Pete Rodriguez, and this fight is going to be insane. Both these guys just like to go in there and swing and bang. Pete Rodriguez, dude hits like a truck. Big power. Only got 4 fights, but I mean, I get why they're put him on the pay-per-view. Round 1 knockout, 10-second knockout, 1-minute knockout. Even in his amateur career, it's like knockout. Every single one of his wins, and amateur and professional, has been every one of his wins has been a knockout. And then Jack Della over here, he's getting finishes too. Knockout, TKO, cut by cut, knockout, choke, knockout, choke, or armbar. And then even his losses are by finish. So I don't see this fight going to decision, that's for sure. And then it's like neither one of these guys have fought a lot of top competition, coming off Contender Series with a decision win. It was his first one. And then Pete Rodriguez coming off just 4 regional scene, I believe. Where is this at? It's in Mexico. And, hasn't fought anybody yet, obviously. Neither one of these guys really have. But I've been impressed with Jack lately, man. He definitely seems like the better grappler here. Pete Rodriguez doesn't have great takedown defense, so I could see him exposing that. But, I feel like Jack's just a more complete guy. Pete really, he's only got 4 fights, so that's obviously a tail sign there too. But just outside of that, he just seems like he really just brawls. He's not like super technical, and he doesn't have like a ton of, I don't know. It just seems like, I feel like somebody extends this guy, it's not gonna look good for him. So I feel like he's gonna get his first loss here. I do think, obviously the first round KO is live for him, but outside of that, I really don't see a way he wins. I think Jack can take him down. I think Jack can outstrike him. I think Jack can knock him out in the first round. So I'm going to go with Jack. Minus 300 is a little steep for a guy coming off Contender Series. I do like this, but 300 is a little steep. I don't know if I'll end up having any action on that, but I do think he's the more complete guy. So I'm going to give Jack Della Matalina the win. I'm going to go by TKO, second round. Next up, we got Michael Morales taking on Trevin Giles. And Trevin Giles is actually an underdog to a guy a lot of people probably might not know. But, I kind of understand why. Trevin Giles didn't look great in his last fight. Fought Dricus Du Plessis and got knocked out in the second round. Was always super durable until then. But you got to say, he fought Dolidis, fought Bevon Lewis, James Krause, Gerald Mearshark, Ryan Spann, Ike Villanueva, Brandon Allen. Just fought a decent amount of UFC competition. Michael Morales, 12-0, but, hasn't really fought anybody you would know yet. Definitely lower level guys, but, he's obviously looked good so far. Definitely, they're both 6 feet tall. He's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage, and I do think on the feet, it's going to be pretty close. I feel like Trevin Giles kind of got underrated striking, but at the same time, he doesn't throw a lot of volume, so I think the volume is going to be all Morales. Trevin Giles got a nice jab, and he's typically very durable. And that last fight was, Du Plessis is super dangerous. It is what it is. He's a finisher, but I do think Michael Morales is gonna have the volume. But I get it. I get why Trevin Giles, even though he's an underdog, he's kind of been the underdog of the week. I've been seeing everybody kind of picking him. It's just tough because obviously you got to worry how he's gonna come off that knockout, and then he just doesn't throw a lot of volume. Morales throws decent volume. He's a good grappler. Again, he hasn't really fought any names you would know, but at least he's going out here and finishing these guys. He's got a decent amount of knockouts, some submissions. Trevin Giles has been submitted before. He's been submitted twice. And those are kind of fight IQ. He was taking Gerald Mearshark down for no reason. He could have just kept out striking him. So it's tough to bet on Trevin Giles, but at least if you're going to do it, you got an underdog price. So typically these are spots where I like to fade the rookie coming in. But I'm really torn on this fight, man. I'm really torn. But because it feels like a coin toss, I will go Trevin Giles by decision, plus 120. But I'm not confident in it. I don't think I'm going to play it. he's got a lot more experience. He's a lot more proven. But man, like he just doesn't throw a lot of volume. He obviously got knocked out badly in his last fight. There's just a lot of red flags, and I don't really want to bet that. But I do think I like to fade these guys. He's 12-0, all these finishes, making his UFC debut against a veteran. But Trevin Giles is always a guy I like to fade, so it's kind of tough. I am going to go Trevin Giles. I'll go Trevin Giles by decision, but I'm not confident in that one. Next up, we got Rony Barcelos taking on Victor Henry. And I've already broken this one down a couple times, too. So I'm not going to be long on this one because I've broken this one down at least twice. I feel like it's been 3 times. Rony Barcelos, I love this guy, man. He's super technical everywhere, man. Yeah, I have broken it down twice. This is the 3rd time. So, super technical everywhere, super good everywhere. Obviously, tough loss in his last one. Just a little bit too inactive in that 3rd round. I really wish he would have gone after the takedowns on Valiev. It seemed like he had a little bit of more gas. They were both tired, but I don't know, man. He just didn't do enough, and he allowed himself to lose a decision, which I thought was a winnable fight. I mean, he looked good, but that was a tough loss, and I still think he should be a favorite here. I still understand him being a big favorite. Minus 420 is tough. I might throw him in a parlay. I might, but it's tough because it's not really a prop I like. Victor Henry's tough. He's good everywhere. But Barcelos just a little bit better everywhere. So I like Barcelos. I'm confident in him. I think he's a little bit better literally everywhere. Better striker, better grappler, better wrestler. But minus 420 steep, man. Victor Henry's still a tough guy. It's such a tough debut. Like, oh, you want to debut in the UFC after 34 with 26 fights? We'll give you a debut, but you're gonna fight Rony Barcelos. Like, gee, fucking thanks. But so I'm gonna have to go Barcelos, but minus 400 plus against scrappy motherfucker like Victor Henry is kind of tough. I like Barcelos. Maybe I throw him in a parlay, but it's tough when I don't see any props because I truly think this could be a sub, decision, or knockout. So give me Barcelos, but I'm not going to pick a prop, and it's pretty wide. Next up, we got Elia Toperia taking on Charles Jourdain, and kind of similar in the sense of it's like you got Jourdain. It's kind of surprising because he's had a lot of hype, and he's coming off such an impressive, like, he just beat the shit out of Andre Fili. And just embarrassed him. I mean, Fili, taunted him and then got fucking Sparta kicked to the ground. That was rough. But I'm actually surprised. Like, I would have loved to snipe this if Toperia was like minus 300 because I really like Jourdain's usually a big ass favorite. I mean, obviously he's had a couple tough losses recently, and he had that crazy draw that which he was supposed to just absolutely go out there and blow the doors off Josh, but it is what it is. I get why Toperia is a big favorite, but I honestly, considering the hype, I'm surprised he is. I mean, Toperia's got a lot of hype on himself too. It's just Jourdain's got the flashy striking and he's super popular. So I would have loved it if Toperia was only minus 300. But I get it. Toperia's striking's coming a long way, but I will give Jourdain the striking advantage. The thing is, his takedown defense is not good. It's just not good, and Toperia's a high-level black belt. He's got high-level wrestling. It's at least very good. We're not talking, Olympian or like D1, but, he's got high-level, pretty damn high-level wrestling. It works with his jiu-jitsu. He's able to get you to the mat. He's going to have big advantage there if he can get Jourdain down, which I do think he will. And I think a submission super live. I think Jourdain's been super tough. He's hard to knock out, but I think it's possible a TKO on the ground. I think a decision of just 3 rounds of beatdown on the ground is possible. So props tough on this because Jourdain is a tough guy. He's hard to be finished. I think a sub is probably the most likely, outcome, but I really don't see Jourdain winning this fight barring like a crazy knockout. I'm sorry, but what's that? Like I said, got a little bit of a cold, but it's not COVID. But I do think Toperia is going to be able to take him down. I think he's going to have a decent grappling advantage there. But, minus fucking 500 in any UFC fight, especially we're not talking about like 125 girls. We're talking about 145 men. And the finishes happen here all the time. And Jourdain is a knockout, he's a finisher. But barring a huge flying knee, a huge fucking head kick or something, I really don't see Jourdain winning this fight. I see him getting taken down repeatedly and controlled, maybe submitted. So I'm gonna go Toperia by submission. Decision's possible, but I go by submission. But man, minus 530 is crazy. Holy shit. Next up, we got Adolfo Vieira taking on Wellington Turman. And what Adolfo, man, God, he bounced back in his last fight. He got the finish over Dustin Stoltzfus. But in this fight before that, man, we got to talk about it. Man, completely gassed after like 3 minutes. Got guillotined by Anthony Hernandez. And we're talking about Adolfo Vieira, the black belt hunter, a jiu-jitsu legend. He's literally like a fucking 7-time world champion. Or like a 3-time world champion and like a fucking 8-time World Cup. I don't know. It's just fucking a lot of accolades in the jiu-jitsu community. Super high-level guy. The problem is he is juiced up to the gills. And that's all great and all when you're trying to get people down, when you're trying to stay on top of them. And when you're, trying to just take people down, submit them in a couple minutes. But if you can't do that, that's a lot of muscle for that oxygen. And he gasses out. Man is a big old meatball, and he does not have a gas tank. The striking isn't great. He's got a decent jab, but the striking is not great. He needs to get you to the mat. He needs to submit you. And, Turman, he's typically a guy who wants to take you down and submit you. And, I mean, Turman hasn't lost by submission. He's never been submitted. And, I mean, that's something, to think about in this fight because Adolfo Vieira has one path to victory. Take you down, submit you. Turman doesn't have great striking. He doesn't have a great chin either, but he's going to have better striking than Adolfo Vieira probably. I mean, it's not going to be by much because Turman's not some great striker, but for a minus 285 favorite, the guy's got one path to victory. He's got to take you down and submit you. Turman hasn't been taken down and submitted yet in 22 fights, so I don't like these odds at all. I think Turman, he's not a guy I ever like to bet. But stylistically, and after what I've seen from Vieira, dude's literally only got one way to beat you. And if that doesn't work, he completely falls apart. So, I think Turman's a live underdog here, man. It's not something I'm super trying to bet. At least not. I'm just like, God damn, am I really going to bet Turman? Like, this is a guy I look to fade. No offense, I'm sorry. But it is what it is. That's just, that is what it is. But if he can just not get taken down in that first round, I mean, even if he is, just avoid the submissions. Man, Vieira gasses hard. I mean, he submitted Stoltzfus, but Stoltzfus isn't UFC caliber. He doesn't have good striking or really good jiu-jitsu either. So that was a better matchup. But Turman, he might have a bit of a striking advantage. Not by much, but by a little bit. And better gas tank, and that could be enough to beat Adolfo. So minus 285 is crazy. I don't know if I'll play Turman, but minus 285 is nuts. You're crazy for playing that. So give me Turman. Well, give me Vieira. Give me Vieira by an absolute shit show decision. Like, just fucking narrowly grinds it out by fucking being on top for a decent amount of time. But I think Turman at plus 220 is the value side all day. Like, if you're gonna bet it, could not bet minus 285 on Adolfo ever again after I saw that fucking fluffy fight. Next up, we got Cody Stamen taking on Saeed Nurmagomedov, and Cody Stamen, man, plus 175. He's coming off 2 losses. This is gonna be a big test for Saeed Nurmagomedov. Saeed. We'll go start with him. Obviously, got his first loss to Hani Barcelos with, as we talked about earlier, Barcelos, super tough guy, super fucking technical, good everywhere. Did bounce back against Mark Striegel in his last fight, finish him in the first round. I almost called him Zabit. Saeed, though, man, he is a Nurmagomedov, but he's not a Nurmagomedov like you might think of. He's not a grappler. He's more of a striker. His grappling is not bad. His jiu-jitsu is not bad, but he's not really going out there shooting takedowns. He wants to keep the fight on the feet. He's really dynamic on the feet. He's got nice kicks. Just super, super technical on the feet. But Cody Stamen, man, he's a grinder. He's got that wrestle boxing style. He's obviously going to be at a height and reach disadvantage, but he always is, and it works out for him because he wants to get in your face. His 2 losses are to Jimmy Rivera and Merab Dvalishvili, and that Jimmy Rivera fight was a good fight, man. It was a good. he didn't look bad in that fight. Jimmy Rivera is super top guy. I mean, he beat Brian Kelleher. He beat Alejandro Perez. Beat Brian Caraway. Tom Duquesnoy, Terrion Ware. I mean, so he's been around for a while, man. He's got the experience advantage. He's fought higher level competition. He's going to have the better wrestling. He's going to have the better grapple. The grappling, Cody Stamen's not great at holding people down. His jiu-jitsu doesn't seem great, but he's a grinder, man. To just put his forehead on your chest, right hand, decent jab, big right hand over the top, and then he shoots a takedown. Classic wrestle boxer style, and it works pretty good for him. And if you're not a high level guy, he'll probably beat you. And Saeed Nurmagomedov, he hasn't fought he fought Honey Barcelos, and that was a big step up. Ricardo Ramos, decent win. That was a decent win. Justin Scoggins, decent win. Those 2 wins were decent. Anderson Dos Santos too. That was a good win too. So he's got a couple decent wins, but I mean, outside of that, hasn't fought a lot of guys you may know. Fought Magomedov in his amateur career and lost that, but I mean, that's a tough guy. They're both debutants, but all good. But minus 200 against Cody Stamen is interesting. Cody Stamen, I definitely think is a live dog here, man. He's just a grinder. I mean, I get why Saeed's the favorite. He's looked great. His only loss recently to Honey Barcelos, who I hold in very high regard. But Cody Stamen, man, he's an absolute grinder. And, I do think he can take Saeed down. The question... We got so far without that. The question is, can he hold him down? I don't know if he'll be able to hold him down for too long, but if he can just take him down a couple times in 2 of these rounds, he could win this. So plus 175, or you get an even bigger line on by decision. I think those are decent bets. I'm going to be playing around with it. I'm going to be looking around. Haven't bet it yet, but I am looking at Cody Stamen straight or Cody Stamen by decision. Let's move on. Next up. Oh, but I will... I am gonna go straight up Cody Stamen by decision. I didn't say that. Next up, we got Michelle Pereira taking on Andre Fialho, and man, Pereira. I gotta say, man, I wasn't a believer in the Pereira hype, and obviously, loss of Tristan Connolly. That was not a good win or a good loss. That was pretty bad. Exactly what I knew would happen to him eventually happened, and it was to a pretty lower level guy. I mean, Tristan Connolly, kind of middling, kind of lower level, but was able to just weather the storm, be tough as shit. And I mean, I don't even like to say this. It sounds like I'm disrespecting him. Like Connolly has my respect for life, because that man looked tiny in there against Pereira. He looked about 2 weight classes too small for Pereira. He just weathered the storm. Kept coming forward, and got the win. And I mean, I thought Nico Price, that one was tough too. And you had Pereira do a backflip into Nico's head. That could have been a DQ or like a point at least. Like, that was weird. The ref didn't even do anything. That was kind of annoying. Maybe I'm biased because I had money on Nico, but I thought Nico, that was a really close fight. Nico was chasing him at the end. Pereira was gassed. Thing is, man, Pereira doesn't have a great gas tank, as we've seen several times, but he has learned a little bit, more patience. He's fighting a little less crazy. I mean, in his last fight, he did do a backflip into somebody's head, but that's still less than he's typically done when he first came to the UFC. Minus 300 steep, but when you went through the Andre Fialho's tape, it's like, okay, this guy's got big power. This guy's training at Sanford, so I don't like to bet against Sanford MMA. That might be the hottest gym in MMA right now. It's at least one of them. Up there with like James Krause and Trevor Whitman and just a definitely a high level camp. But you just look at their camp right now. You got just so many top guys. It's pretty nuts. But a lot of good fighters there. And I'm sure he's getting better, but he's only 27. But this guy, he's fought a couple decent guys. I mean, he fought Chris Curtis, lost that one. Antonio Dos Santos Jr., James Vick, Sang-Hoon Yu, Stefan Sekulek. But Andre's got big power. But honestly, this is crazy that I'm saying this, but Pereira might have a gas tank advantage here. I've seen Andre slow down several times, and I really feel like he's one of these guys, like, once somebody just extends him in the UFC, he's going to look bad. Also, man, I think Pereira, like, who knows if he'll actually go out here and do this, but, man, if he were to just try to take Andre down, I think that'd be the path of least resistance, because I really feel like he's the better grappler, he's the bigger guy, he's the stronger guy, and he could get on top of Andre pretty easily if he wanted to. Andre doesn't have great grappling, doesn't have great takedown defense, and he gets tired. So I really feel like Pereira can stay on the outside, chip away at him, as long as he doesn't get. I do think Pereira, Fiallo has the better chin. He's the more durable guy. He could definitely knock Pereira out. We've seen it happen before. But if Pereira can avoid the big right hand, I think, man, he can win this fight. He's going to throw more volume. He's going to throw the more judge-pleasing strikes. He's got the better jiu-jitsu. He's the bigger guy. If anybody's getting takedowns, I think it's him. So I'm going to go Pereira, man, and I'm going to go by knockout, but I think a decision is possible. It could be a sneaky possibility that he just goes in here and takes Fiallo down. Now, obviously, he's not going to stick to that game plan and do it a ton. This is Pereira we're talking about. He's going to do some backflips in there. But he has calmed down a little bit. He's fighting a little bit more fight IQ, better fight IQ, and I do think he can mix in some takedowns. Who knows if he will, but let's hope he does, because it'll make the win a lot easier for him. I'm going to go Michel Pereira by knockout, but a decision is possible. Next up, we got the co-main event. Brandon Moreno taking on Deiveson Figueiredo, the trilogy. In the first fight, I thought Figgy won, even with the point deduction. You had Figgy. Man, in that rematch, it's like he just, and I've been saying it for a while, I don't know how much longer Figgy can make that weight. Because the weight cut looks like it just murders this man. I mean, he's only 5'5". He's only 5'5" with a 68-inch reach. He doesn't have the biggest frame for a flyweight, but he's got a lot of muscle. And at this point, I couldn't bet Figgy until I see him on the scales. So I really want to see him on the scales, because it's going to tell me a lot about what my opinion is on this fight. Because I really feel like a healthy Figgy, a Figgy who comes in like he did in the first fight. I mean, again, I thought he won that fight. I thought even with the point deduction, let alone without the point deduction, he would have won. It'd be 1-1 right now. Figgy, super dangerous. And I knew that if somebody could really extend him, it could be tough. I mean, we've seen he does slow down, especially when you have a weight cut like he does. You're gonna have a little bit more trouble at those championship rounds, but Moreno's super good everywhere, man. Just super high level, dude. Like, striking's gotten so much better, boxing's gotten so much better. He could compete with Figueiredo on the feet. He was touching him up in the last fight, but again, in that last fight, man, I just don't feel like Figgy showed up. That didn't look like Figgy out there, man. I've seen Figgy fight. I've seen all Figgy's fights. And I have never seen Figgy fight like he did in the last fight. He looked compromised. And I said after that fight, he needs to go up. Thing is, man, the crazy thing is about, fighting, he's a huge 25er. He wouldn't be a big 130. He'd be kind of smaller, at least as far as frame. He'd have to change his style up a lot. Like, he's not a guy that goes out there and shoots a lot of takedowns, but at 35, he'd probably have to on some of these guys, because there's some guys at 35 that are like 5'10", 5'11", I mean, if the striking's close, they're 5'10", 5'11", with a, 75-inch reach. Like, you might have to mix in some takedowns, because, it can get a little tough. I mean, obviously, again, reach advantage is only advantage if you know how to use it, but some of them guys at 35 know how to use it. So I get it, staying at 25, with his style, like he's a marauder. He wants to just walk you down, be a bully, and just, keep you backing up. Keep you worried about his big power. He's got power and his kicks but mostly his hands. He mostly likes to throw big punches, and he can start. I mean, for 25er, he's got some of the sickest power I've ever seen at flyweight. If he touches you on the chin, man, he can knock you out easy. But Moreno's been nothing but durable, man. This guy's so tough, man. And Figgy's super opportunistic on the ground. He's super, he's got good jiu-jitsu, good submissions, but Moreno just good at staying on top, good at avoiding the submissions, man. And he's just got that Mexican chin, Mexican heart. The dude's an absolute savage. Both these guys are savages, but Moreno's got the gas tank. He's got the overall better grappling, just in the sense of if I can rely on Moreno more to be the guy on top, winning the round and getting the takedowns. I don't see Figgy going out there shooting a lot of takedowns. But you got to say, he hasn't been training with him long, but, he's been training with Henry Cejudo. I'm sure he's working on his wrestling. I'm sure it's more so on the defensive end, but, maybe we see Figgy come out here a little bit differently. I don't think it's super likely he's going to look a lot different. Like, he's going to, all of a sudden be shooting takedowns like Henry Cejudo. No, of course not. But maybe he's added a little bit of a wrinkle to his game. Or just in the sense of wrestling defense, some game planning. Because, Henry Cejudo's super high-level fight IQ. He's an Olympic athlete. That can't be a bad thing. Henry Cejudo, having him and his team in your corner is not going to be a bad thing. But, he hasn't been with them long. It's not. Some people are expecting him to look like a completely different fighter. He's gonna be an Olympic Figueiredo now. No, of course not. But maybe they're working on that gas tank, that defensive wrestling. Maybe a little offensive wrestling for a little extra wrinkle to his game to show out here or there. But overall, man, I gotta see the weight cut. Jesus, the weigh in for this fight, because I do lean Brandon Moreno because Figgy, what we saw in the last fight, he just did not look great. So I haven't seen anything yet to prove that he's not going to look like shit again. But, until I see the weight cut or the weigh-in, it's hard to say, because I do think that if Figgy comes in healthy, and maybe Henry can help him with that weight cut. He's been cutting weight for 30 years. And he's just a veteran and just combat sports. Maybe that can help him out. Maybe his team can help Figgy out. But I got to see him on the scales, because if he looks like shit, it's Moreno all day. If he looks great, it's going to look like the first fight, in my opinion. Maybe Moreno, like that confidence of that second fight, can maybe that'll be something for him. But I do feel like healthy Figueiredo, I would lean Figgy, especially at underdog odds, if he can make that weight cut good. So I want to see him on the scales. Overall, I got to go Moreno. I'm going to say it goes 5 rounds this time. I'm going to say Moreno by decision. A submission is still on the table, though, if he hasn't got the weight cut issue settled. So, I'm going to go Moreno, but I'm not going to go by prop, and I want to wait by this on the scales. Because if Figgy looks great, you might... I don't like to hold the weigh-ins on too high a regard, but this is one where I do. I really feel like it's going to help me a lot. If Figgy looks super healthy, if he looks super great on the scales, then I really do feel like, he could come out here as a plus 150 dog. I really think he could get the win here. So I'm gonna go Moreno, but I do think plus 150 is pretty damn good odds for a former champ. Next up, let's go to the main event. And super excited about this fight. If you got this far, click the like button, click subscribe, drop a comment. I appreciate you. Super excited for this fight, man. But, it's pretty easy to break down, man. It's pretty easy to break down. I like to take the most time for the main events, but I really feel like I could go on and on about how they're former training partners and they got this beef. And the one thing I will say about that is maybe the fact, yes, there's some footage of Gane getting the better of him, but it's sparring. I'm sure there were days that France got the better of him. I'm sure there was days Cyril got the best of him. I'm sure there was parts of that exact video where France was getting the better of him, but they go ahead and clip that out. I believe Francis when he says that tape was edited, in the sense of, I've seen that shit a million times in the martial arts community. They clip out a spot where they looked good in the sparring. And underdog odds for Francis when he can knock out anybody on the fucking planet. I get it. If you're taking Francis, take him by knockout. He ain't winning a decision in this one. At least I'd be pretty shocked. But unless he got a couple knockdowns, Cyril just survives. But that's not happening. Cyril could knock him out, but I would lean Cyril 4th, 5th, or by decision if you're playing Cyril, and I would bet Francis by knockout, or Francis first round knockout with a little less on Francis second round knockout, and maybe a little sprinkles third round knockout, or you just do 1 and 2. That would be how I pick a side on this. Overall, I'm going to go ahead and come out and say I lean Gane, but underdog odds for the guy who can knock out a horse, pretty fucking. I mean, this fight is. I've been back and forth on like how to bet this. It's pretty tough. I want to look at the 4th, 5th, and by decision line when that drops for Gane. If that's close to even, maybe that's the play. But you know, who knows? Francis comes out super hot. Cyril counters him, could knock him out. I wanted to say earlier and forgot. Maybe the sparring, one thing you could take away is Gane's had at least some success, so he won't be as intimidated by Francis. Like a lot of Francis' opponents are, and he won't let Francis just walk him down. But, yeah. I don't like to look into sparring footage too heavy. It's sparring footage. They're working. They're grinding. Who knows? That could have been a camp where Francis is fighting 10 different opponents or sparring 10 different guys. And or that could be a Cyril camp where Francis is trying to make Cyril look good. I think that's actually what Francis said. So that's believable too. I don't look into footage like that super heavy because of those type of things. But one thing I'll take away from it is maybe it'll help Gane his confidence, knowing, you know, I've beat this guy up a little bit before. Maybe he's beat me up too, but I know what it's like. This guy is not superhuman. He's human. If I put my hands on him, my kicks on him, he's going to feel it. So, I lean Gane. I lean Gane 4th, 5th, or by decision. But Frankie Murder, he can knock out a horse. So, I'm torn, man. I don't have a bet on it yet. But I'm going to lean Gane 4th, 5th round decision. That would be my play on the fight. But maybe I'll hedge Francis KO 1st round. I'm pretty torn. I haven't bet it yet. I'm kind of playing around with some of it. Kind of trying to see what the weigh-ins look like, what the lines are looking like when that 4th, 5th prop drops. But that's where my head's at so far. If you just want to pick, I'll go Gane. So far for my picks across the card, I got Gane 4th, 5th, or by decision. Moreno late sub or decision. Michelle Pereira by knockout. Cody Stamen by decision. Wellington Turman by decision as well. I guess my overall pick will be Rodolfo Vieira by decision. But you know, a lot of value on Turman. But overall pick Vieira. Toperia by sub. Barcelos by decision. Trevin Giles by decision, but extremely torn on that one. Jack by knockout. Tony by decision. Silvana Gomez by decision. Mafivola by decision. Kay Hansen by sub. That's going to be my pick so far. Appreciate you watching the video. Enjoy the fights. Come check me out on Twitch. I'm live every day. We're going to have a fight card on Sunday too. Fight night and UFC. So come through there. I will see y'all then. Leave a like, leave a comment, drop a sub, post notifications, all that good stuff. I got tons of videos coming. I will be back. I do these every fight card. I'll catch y'all then. I'll catch you on Twitch. Later.